Just coming along, and let's say I've gotten to a point where I'm happy with this. Maybe this is going to be some kind of ocular device or something like that that I want to sculpt up. I want it based on this piece of actual geometry. Well, I want to add a lot more points, and I could go ahead and start tapping and tapping and tapping with Control to add a whole bunch of edge loops, but that's really going to take some time, and I can't quickly and easily reduce that if I take that back into something else like Mudbox or ZBrush or whatever. So I'm actually going to leave the tool momentarily and have a look at this. I'm just going to take this mesh smooth feature It's going to create a mesh smooth face. So again, that's mesh. Smooth right there. And I'm going to go into divisions. There. I'll increase that to say 3, which is going to give me a really high res mesh. Lots and lots and lots of points. So many points. What am I going to do with all those points? So let's see. I'll go back into my quad draw tool, which I mentioned. If you select an existing mesh, it will use that as the starting point for what you're doing. And you notice that some of those points have jumped forward. They look like they're sitting on top of the mesh, but some of them clearly are not. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press my B key. My B key is my soft selection, which works to give you a nice radius. So if you hold down B, click and drag, get a larger section. So you can grab these sections and start moving them around. And what I can do with this is using the Shift key to smooth it out, is I can force all these to pop up to the main surface. Now that hasn't done the outside border again, remember. So if I go to the outside border here and then go around, you notice that a lot of that stuff pops up. And so now I've covered both the interior all the way across and the exterior, and it's perfectly fitting to my surface now. So if I were to go ahead and grab that, all those lovely points, and pull that forward, you can see that it's taken all the sculpted detail that I've got there. And this is a reducible item as well. So if I wanted to go back to smooth face, set that divisions down to 0, we'll return back to the base mesh. I'll bring it back up to 3, can bring that back up. And this gives me an opportunity to work with something that may be really high res, that has all this detail, but have a low res version of it that I can manipulate and move around temporarily. So all that detail is there. So it's kind of a cool little feature that you can play around with. Now, what else has it done? If we go into UV Texture Editor, it's created a number of polygons here. It's going to grab all these edges, and based on each one of these polygons that I created, it's automatically unwrapped them as individuals. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Move and Sew feature on this, and you're going to see what it's ended up producing for me with regards to that. So I get a little bit of complication there. Could probably just grab a UV down to unfold. Make sure it's set to unfold 3D. Grab the whole thing. And there we go, I've got that quickly unwrapped. And it's ready to go. Alternatively, as shown in other videos, if this had an unwrap and a texture in it, you could also go ahead and bake that stuff out, similar to how you would do with a gator function, where you could go ahead and transfer the UVs from this high-res object to this one. However, this object that I've sculpted here doesn't have any actual UVs, so I have to create them from scratch. And again, if I wanted to transfer texture information, even if it was from separate UVs or something like that, I could then transfer it directly onto here, onto the new set of UVs, if I felt that these were better aligned. and I could use that through rendering, lighting and shading, and then using something like transfer maps, where I can go ahead and just transfer the diffuse texture, which is texture without lighting. I would add my target mesh, which I currently have selected, so it's automatically gone in there. And of course my source mesh, which I would use this guy to select. However, I would have to make it no longer live so I can actually select it. And then through selecting it, I could then proceed to go ahead and add it as a source mesh. And then it will go ahead and transfer them. And you have settings with regards to my output in terms of the map's size, so how big it is that you want it to be. If you want it to transfer in world space, meaning they're right over top of each other, or in object space, meaning their centers are relative to the same location of their vertices. And then you can deal with anti-aliasing values here, so whether you want it to anti-alias the texture going across, you can leave it to lower filter sizes. Gaussian will tend to smooth things out, whereas triangular will keep things a little bit more sharp. And then of course filling the texture seams, going beyond the UV texture border. And then of course the format and the actual location that you want to save. And once you've made these, they will stick around in this interface, so if you've got some from before that have settings that you're just not interested in, you can remove them or change their settings. So that's how you could go and transfer something from one sculpted piece of information. This could be either sculpted or it could be high-res data, scan data that you've brought in that has things like, say from 123D Catch. You could go ahead and use this to transfer both texture as well as detail onto another mesh. So hopefully that was useful information, and that's it for me. Just as a quick little PS, I wanted to add one little thing here. If I hold down Control and Shift and then hold on my right mouse button, I actually get options to change some of these features. So as I was talking about before with the smooth, we have this relax auto lock. So what happens is if you hold down Shift and click on an interior point, it will only select interior points. And then if you click on an exterior point, something along the outside edge, along the border there, then it will only smooth the border information. However, you can tell it to only do interior or only do border, and you have the option, of course, of basically smoothing everything. So you have those options. And then we have the option to turn off auto weld if you don't want to use that. And then we have some automated features for some of these things, which I like them the way that they exist right now. So I don't actually change these, but right now it's set to go ahead and extend an edge. That's when I go ahead and use Tab and drag out.